a new CEO just put into place. On top of that, they closed 150 of their existing stores. And now, just this morning, announced that group is going to be investing $6.6 billion to get the stock purchase at $24 a share and be able to take that on. It's astounding to me, Rob, to look at that situation. Welcome to the Leveraging Success podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Gearhart. Every time that we're together, I want to help you work less, make more, and through the freedom you gain and the margin that you start to store up, you're going to be able to be an incredible husband, wife, parent, and most importantly, an incredible kingdom leader, living the life mission that God put you on. Man, today I'm excited. Rob, good to be here with you again, Rob Dayton. Glad that we're in this talking about this fun topic today.
Yeah, how you doing? You doing good? You have a good weekend?
Yeah, great. It was filled with stuff around our property, filled with good family time, great church time. I think that when you have great family, you accomplish something and you get to reflect. Man, that is a really good cap to the end of the week and the beginning of the next one.
So good. And the worship, so good. Just love it. Yeah, the weekends, little focused on the family. I know we both do that. What's in the news today? Anything big in the news?
Yeah, it's directly related to what we're going to talk about today. We are going to be talking about quitting today again as a second part. Last month, we released the episode Quit Today. And one of our members of the master's program, Daniel, I won't use his last name because that's for him to know and me to understand. But Quit Today, he said, "Hey, Jeff, I listened to this. In fact, I listened to this episode with a friend and we were both thinking, okay, can you tell us more about how to do that?" And Rob, you and I, we put our heads together and decided, yeah, we'd love to talk a little bit more about this, unpacking the how of quitting today. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Is what's directly related to the news. Today, it was announced that a group of investors have come together to buy out majority position of Macy's. Now, Macy's is the retail store in malls. Man, growing up in my day, every weekend, if you could find your way to a mall, that's where your friends met up with. That's where you were trolling for girls, and you were probably maybe looking for something to eat, and maybe you had some money to buy something, but you just hung out in malls, and they were like a community center growing up. And of course, malls have changed drastically over the last 3-4 years, even the last decade, as so much of the economy's changed. The way that we buy things have changed, and Macy's is a stalwart, a long-term face and brand in that space. You think of Sears, you think of JCPenney, you think of Nordstrom, you think of Macy's, and these great names. But a couple of those names are very much faded, if not completely gone. And here, Macy's is one of the last titans, perhaps, with so much real estate and so much space to sell things. They got a new CEO just put into place. On top of that, they closed 150 of their existing stores. And now, just this morning, announced that group is going to be investing $6.6 billion to get the stock purchase at $24 a share and be able to take that on. It's astounding to me, Rob, to look at that situation. And it harkens back for me to Blockbuster Video, and you name the scenario of where the world changed in the last 20 years because of the revolution of information technologies, the internet and the such. And with all of that's changed, the retail shops have drastically changed. And the big question that I've got is, do you chase bad money with good? Are you really going to make this kind of risk?
Yeah, and that's really related to the subject because it's, maybe like Daniel, people are thinking, is this going to work out? And it's fascinating to think about Macy's. Oh my gosh, we had two Macy's in Santa Barbara. One shut down downtown. I guess it was about 7 years ago. That was extremely disruptive for the downtown. And I think that, at least in Santa Barbara's case, is this misinterpretation of the future in terms of how people buy retail. Jeff, when's the last time you walked into a store to buy something that was in a department store? Like I can't even remember the last time I was in a department store.
I still enjoy the experience. To be clear, I like going shopping if I'm going to go shopping. And so for me, Rob, it wasn't forever ago. It was probably within the last 3 months. And where I like to go, it's an experience. I like to get what I need to get help to find what I'm trying to look for, get in, get it done, get out of there. So it is very different, though. It's not the crowded place. It's not the place to be seen at. It may be even really a thing for people to do that's a bit luxurious, because you're going to commit to drive somewhere. You're going to
Right.
commit time to spend looking for things. Whereas, most shopping is done with thumbs going up until you find what you're looking for. And when you find it, then you've scrolled, you bought it. It's coming through the mail or through UPS or whoever, and you're going to have it at your doorstep really quickly. So yeah, it's drastically changed. And this is a big bet, man. This is a lot of money.
Totally.
These are executives that are committing to, we can revitalize this thing. And I'm sure there's all sorts of worst case scenarios that have been played out in this investment firm's mind in terms of it's extremely valuable real estate. There'll always be a play of some kind to reform that or continue to iterate it or find value from it. But really, it's going to have to find its soul, and finding its soul that will be attractive. That's the truth about all business, is that it's not simply that products are good that will last for a little bit of time, but the ones that really connect with the soul and purpose, and that purpose becomes very attractive, and that people bind identity to a brand where they enjoy the brand so much that they feel associated with it. They feel that they even have, if not a financial stake, an emotional stake in its success. And whether it's Macy's or any other brand, we, if we're going to buy, are going to want to associate and feel a soul level connection. Does that sound strange to you or make sense, Rob?
It does. It makes sense because people want an experience. That's what they need, is an experience these days. They're not a product they can buy anywhere, an experience they cannot buy online typically. So yeah, that's 100%. That company will need to come in and transform that shell into an experience. Can't really imagine how that would happen, but
Me
let's
neither.
go. We're gonna find out.
Yeah. This ties beautifully to what we're talking about today, right? Because when we are deciding to quit today and jump out, we're not going from something to nothing. We're trying to design and define what the future is. Now, the motivation from the topic quit today, or to suggest that you should quit today, is really around a book that we like called Die Broke. And Die Broke, one of the principles of successful financial management has to do with working for yourself and being a product that you're selling, or capable to manage your own calendar, control it, in fact, not just manage it, lead it, and use that time to have control over your life. And this is going to be the greatest opportunity for wealth development. But back to the motivation is the promise of this podcast, right? Is that we want to work less, make more, and to get margins so that we can do the things that will matter forever. Rob, I think that you and I can look back on much of our career and our forefathers who we saw become so overshadowed by their career that they never had time for the things that mattered forever, for family or for the things of God that they were being called to. And so getting leverage is really important. And we've never been in a greater economy and opportunity to be free from the industrial age, to move through this knowledge working opportunity to create. And that's, of course, not even limited to knowledge work. Certainly, the trades, the value of the trades never been higher, in being able to create business through them. So the opportunities are really growing. And we have to define and decide, how are we going to get our freedom and what can we do? So, here at the beginning, Rob, I'd love for us to share our two stories so that we can create a foundation of what does it look like to quit today. Rob, you quit a long career in a government position, city management, that was very successful. I left a corporate world in the med device world where I would say both of us have such fond memories, dear friends, and left hoping for the best and have seen, ongoing goodness happen in the places that we left. But we didn't leave in a sense of, I don't have any other options, but rather we were always designing for this opportunity to get our freedom. So, could you talk a little bit about the process for you having your freedom, going and designing who you were best suited to be to make the brand of Rob Dayton and start to leverage that for your freedom and control of your time? Could you tell a little of your story, how that worked?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I will. So, what's I think fortunately for me, in 2007, I graduated from the master's program. So, I had a pretty significant runway leading up to, 2020 of incrementally shifting what my angle to who is Rob Dayton and what does he specialize in? What is the magic that he can create when he's firing on all the God designed cylinders? For me, so I'm in government as a public works official and then eventually managing downtown in Santa Barbara. The But I was incrementally shifting since 2007 to angle towards organizational health and really speaking into what is it about the nut I was trying to crack is what is it in government brings life to a city and is life giving. There's government which is completely bureaucratic mainly, but they're good people. They have good hearts. They're in it for the right reasons. Could they position themselves better? Could they be more? Could they bring more passion? Could they bring more specialty to who they are in government to actually make a difference for the citizens they serve? So that was the nut I was trying to crack the whole time. And when I actually left the city, people would say, okay, here's his title, but they would say, yeah, he was the culture coach of the city. And then I started coaching the master's program in 2014. Thank you, Bob Shank. I
Hmm.
started doing moonlighting for other cities and talking to them about, what does it look like good governance in the way we manage our organization and create a culture, an employee culture that is, brilliant and people want to be there. Now the stakes are even higher in the government because there's such a battle to try to get people, and governments can't pay them enough to actually work there. So it's hard to get people to work for government. And so now transitioning away, and I think that moment, and we're going to talk about this, Jeff, but I think that moment was definitely scary for me.
Mm,
I don't think it's not scary. I think that there's all this, the future's all, is all about wonder whether it's going to happen. The past is obviously cemented. So that big jump was crazy. I didn't imagine myself actually doing that until it was upon me. But what was really cool is that once those, let's call them golden handcuffs, were taken off me at the city of Santa Barbara, I was free to go 100% in the lane of organizational health. And particularly now, 4 years out, specializing in service to executive teams in government in cities. And got to tell you, Jeff, I think this is what, Daniel and other people who are wondering about is when you're able to take off a 40 to 80 hour gig that has occasionally, hopefully you're hitting the mark in terms of your talent and your passion and your purpose, to moving to more of 100%
yeah. Yeah.
hitting your talent and your passion and your purpose. Wow, that
Yeah.
was life giving and also extremely successful.
Yeah, I think there's an important sign that one of my old bosses had on her desk that I loved, especially in the run up to my jump. And it said, "Leap and the net will appear." And, a big part of the beginning is the yes, the jump, the commitment. And once that commitment's been made, hunger and drive start to kick in. And that process is one where we want to keep our hope in the right spot. And so I won't sit here and pretend for a moment that didn't have wild swings of nights where, you know, I'm looking to the ceiling going, is this going to work? Is this really going to take? God, are you going to be with me as I go forward? And, my story very similarly is along the lines of I had spent the last 4 years of my career. Rob, what you were saying about your experience is one that is the same for my story. And that challenge in my story was around the part where the leap, the saying yes, the committing to leaving my corporate comfort. I like that corporate
Right.
comfort. And I was getting away into the great unknown, the great expanse of what was possible. And so much was then required on me to define it. And I needed to change my corporate brain for an entrepreneur's brain. And that's no small thing, right? That's, moving away from a different set of reflexes, responses. And with that, your time's your own. You're wearing every hat and you're in this sweaty startup to make things go. And so I have a old boss that on her desk, she had a sign that was important to me in the run up to my saying, this is where I'm going. And it said, leap and the net will appear. And that leaping out is the beginning part because the hunger, the desire, the drive start to kick in and you're moving forward. But keeping my heart and working to keep my heart in a state of hope, protecting my confidence, so important because when fear takes over, I'm losing. I'm quickly draining every part of me thinking this is not going to work. So protecting my confidence, it has been very important. Changing out my corporate comfort brain for a entrepreneur's brain. It's more of a hunter's brain that goes out and looks for as much leverage as possible. That's the beginning. I also like in your story that's related to mine is knowing yourself. And what is the thing that you've been doing that people really say about you? Rob, in your case, it was you're the culture coach inside of the city. For me, it was the turnaround. I had been sent to Europe to help them turn around from being a little region to the center point for the company for about 5 years, where it was going to be a big turnaround, big change. We're going to have to put in a lot, and I was going to help a lot of people through that change. And then I got back to the US, and no good deed goes unpunished. And so every good thing that happened in Europe led to why don't you take on a role that you know nothing about? And the last two executives before you have been fired. And so why don't you take that on and see if you can fix it? The funny thing in that process was that the need was not my smarts or my individual contribution. It was leadership through culture change. And I, like you, became very focused on organizational health. And as we focused on that, primarily leveraging the tool from the book called The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, that book it was a platform for us turning around the organization just magically. And it really was an amazing moment with some amazing people to go from in the dumps to accelerating. And so I found that people were my passion, teams were my passion, culture, consulting was my passion. And the beginning of that, along with some other ventures that I put into place, I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. I was building things. I had some of my old IT world was around. Some of my medical device experience was leveraged, and my capability growing quickly in organizational health consulting started. And it wasn't long after that. It was 2017. Bob Schenk, another reference to Bob, invited me to start coaching in Dallas. So those things and those pieces were the framework for a platform for me to get my freedom. And in my story, this may not be true with everybody, but in my story, there were several pieces that were part of the momentum beginning. And then as I continue to clarify, a couple of those pieces went away. I got more honed on organizational health. I got more, even deeper focused in the master's program. And as those things came together, I was seeing my passion, and the best part of me happen. In fact, it was the thing that would get me into flow where I would lose track of time. And when I was able to do it, to plan for it, to execute it, things were just flying by. And I think that's a good sign of the thing you should be designing for is the thing that gets you in flow, the thing that gets you excited, the thing that, again, people talk about, like calling you the culture coach. Those things are signs and flags with which we can say, this is where with a little bit of my work, I get a lot and it has the best of me. I'm sweating, but I feel like I'm getting as much or more than I'm giving. And that relationship then starts to say, okay, this is something here. And I don't know how often you're getting to use this something. For me, it was a growing thing where I was using it more and more. And as I used it more, I realized, man, I really love teams. I really love culture. I really love helping executives and boards accelerate organizations through this way to rally teams with organizational health. And so that passion was something that burned bright and is something that I still deeply love and get to do today as a part of what we do here. But that's a drastic change from where we were, Rob. Now, I would love for you to talk. Were your strengths or any of the personality assessments that you had done up until the run up of your leap, did they inform you as well? Were there some signs to this is the thing that I should pursue and build?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for sharing your story, Jeff. Yeah, absolutely. The answer is, and I learned about Gallup strengths with Bob Shank. So that was in, the first, let's see, halfway between the 3-year program. So 2006. And yeah, that is amazing. And I think now that I've coached, hundreds and hundreds of people on strengths, the one thing that I will say, to our listeners is that the tendency is not to value those things.
Yes.
And people have they'll have a really good experience. We've talked about this. I think this is the trick. If you're going to quit today, you've got to value what you have in such a high, you have to hold it in high regard. And the reason we don't, one of the biggest reasons we don't, is because the things that are our natural talents, they seem so intuitive and easy for us that we make the mistake of thinking that they're special or brilliant or make us stand out. And that is a big mistake. Also, I've seen people who have been introduced to their strengths clearly not focus on them or think about them or meditate on them because they've lost track of the list. They don't know what the words mean. I think that looking in the mirror and seeing who you are is a really big thing. James talks about looking in the mirror and walking away and forgetting what you see being a mistake. And I see so many people who do that. They look in the mirror, I show them who they are. My job is to rally cry them to really appreciate those things. So looking at your talent, I think we need a whole nother podcast on passion and then purpose, like what is that thing that I loved asking this question. What is the thing that the world needs they're not asking for?
Hmm.
That is a really important thing. We all have that. Like if the world would just do this, they would be so much better. And since there's some passion around that too. So really understanding, cherishing what you have. And then, I was fortunate to incremental that over such a long period of time and really study that and test it and do what we call the low cross probes, dip my foot in this pool. Does that feel right? Some of our listeners haven't done that at all. So I think it's going to be really important for you to get really clear about what is in your design that makes it so special, so brilliant, and so valuable in the marketplace.
Rob, this is so good. The desire to really treasure the thing that you have to offer. And that means, by the way, there's some other suggestions around that. And that is to say that you need to sell at your highest bill rate possible. And by that, your desire to value you will be reflected in the bill rate that you're selling the product at, or if it's you and your capability, that should be treasured. And so the bill rate being high, you're looking for the highest bill rate possible. Now, this is a leverage point. This is a leverage point where, I'm able to get as much with the least. And when you start that process and you think about your highest bill rate opportunity, and not to undervalue it, and make yourself blush a little bit. Really make yourself blush a little bit, because in that process, what you will start to do is value the treasure that you've got. Now, have some sub options for that, meaning that if the highest bill rate is something that someone doesn't want to buy at, you should have some sub broken down options that are still leveraged for you so that they can find the palatable place to work with you. Treasuring yourself, it has to do with your bill rate and being clear on that and getting as much leverage as you can. Then I also want to recommend to you, as you're thinking about quitting today, is do not sell your time. Don't sell your time. Do not bill at an hourly rate. Make sure that you're not, even if you can, avoid selling your presence, but certainly don't sell your time. Sell value. And think to yourself, if we're successful here, what is the 1 year, 3 year, and perhaps 10-year implications of our success and our work together, or you purchasing this product? And as a result of that, you can figure value and you can make a case for it. So treasure yourself, treasure your bill rate, don't sell your time. These are important principles to getting things started and making sure that as you're moving out there, you don't find yourself exchanging the fire for the frying pan, which is, I was, entangled in a corporate or government job or institutional job of any kind. It's got me chained to a desk. And the moment that I'm free from that, all I did is chain myself to something else where I didn't get leverage. I didn't get freedom. I didn't become the leader of my time. I've become my slave to someone else. So if you get your freedom, keep that freedom, baby, and don't give that away, because that's the place with which you're going to have more margin to be incredible in your family and incredible as a kingdom leader. Rob, these have been very important constructs to the build out, I know, of your consultancy and my business, because we continue to want to keep that leverage so that we keep control of our time.
That's 100%. And what you're saying is gold to the listener, because if we, what one of the goals of Quit Today is to create margin for, being a great husband, being a great father, being a great steward. There's volunteering time that's, a lot of us want to do in the kingdom that we're not getting compensated for. So you can't sell your time. You've got to sell return on investment. You've got to sell value. I'm confronting with this in my business, and my business is super young, I would say, but cities are asking me to do executive coaching of their people, and I have a problem now, because I work with government, and typically people are thinking in hourly rates. I can't break down my day rate into an hourly rate that they would feel comfortable with. So now I'm reinventing, okay, let's see how I would do this and have the value exchange and the compensation that I want. And so now I'm working in a group coaching. So just, here's the process, join the group at any time with some individual coaching so I can charge the value exchange rather than starting to dance into the hourly rate thing, because I want to, my business is pretty much done in 4 months. So if you took 4 months of days, that is my whole entire work for the
Yeah.
year. And that makes significantly more money than I ever did at the city of Santa Barbara. And then have all this time for the master's program and coaching in the master's program, and for doing things abroad, and for doing things with Santa Barbara House of Prayer here in our town. So there's all sorts of things that I get to do in addition to investing in Nancy, my wife, and my two kids with Best
Yeah.
Days Porter. So all this investment time, because of what you said, of not charging hourly, but charging for value exchange.
Yeah. I got to add to one thing you said there is, while compensation for some of these kingdom and family things may not come in this life. It's the ultimate deferred compensation plan, right? That we're after. And one of the big exciting things about the future and what eternity looks like is that we are going to be rewarded for the things done in the body. So excited for what we get to do and the investment in our children that pays dividends, God helping us and them over a period of their lifetime and perhaps even eternity. These are things that we don't want to let pass by. And so, building a business, getting your freedom, quitting today, being in charge of your calendar, not exchanging one set of problems for the exact same and under a different heading. We're looking to stay high in hope, and this isn't built without effort. I've already said this, but I'm referring to something that the Apostle Paul said in God's Word. He said, "If you can get your freedom, do." And the ability to get your freedom and then keep it and not go back to being slaves of men is what we're after. And so that's a life by design. And that effort is interesting. One last thought before we start to get to the end of today is that I'm reading another fantastic book that I'm very much enjoying. I'm not quite done yet, but it's a book called Abba's Child by Brennan Manning. And one of the chapters inside this book describes an expansion of Jesus's parable of the man who in the field discovers a great treasure and then runs out, sells everything to get the money to buy the field so that he can have that treasure. Now, what Rob and I have been proposing to you today when we are talking about discovering who you are, knowing yourself, is to then see the treasure that Jesus is in you and the capabilities he's built in you uniquely. And having discovered that, the thing that I've always missed about this story is that there was a process for this man who discovered the treasure. He didn't get to pull it out of the ground and claim it as its own because the field wasn't his. And so the process then was to go sell everything, probably borrow from family and friends to be able to collect the price needed to buy the field. And so that was the intentional work of discovering, okay, there's something great here and it's worth everything. And because it's worth everything, the labor of the jumping out to sell everything that he had to get whatever means collected to be able to make that offer to buy the field, that's a process of intentional building. And he's doing it with the joy of, I know that all of this right now is a big bunch of risk, right? I just sold my house and everything I've owned. I've leveraged my relationships to a place with which now I've got enough to buy that field. And then I'm doing it, but I'm doing it with joy. And so all the risk that's going on around me, it's an important part of the whole equation to be in joy about the certainty of the treasure that Jesus is in you, that you are, that he's made you to be, and the discovery of that is a pursuit. It's an intentional pursuit that goes through everything from feedback from trusted friends and brothers and sisters to be able to do personality assessments, to get a coach and use this process to gather information so that what you're doing is centered on the special thing that God made in you. So, our encouragement to you is to quit today, to find who God's made you to be, to know yourself, to prepare yourself with the certainty of understanding your capabilities. And with that, then going through the process of protecting your time, not just changing one set of issues for another, and realizing that what you're leaving behind is a period that you're not going to. So, changing your corporate comfort brain, your government mindset to coming into the full expression of who you are. That's what we're about. That's what we're looking for leverage to be able to use the success from our past to leverage it to be able to live for eternity. We want to thank you so much for being with us for another episode of this podcast, Leveraging Success. We're really glad that you're coming and listening here, and I'm so glad to get feedback from people that have questions and thoughts. We would love to continue on this journey with you. So please follow this podcast, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube so you're not missing an episode. We'd also love to get your feedback, just like I got the opportunity here through a master's program member. You can email us. Email me at jeff@leveragingsuccesspodcast.com to tell me what you think of the show, what you like, what you like to hear more of. We would love to talk about, like we did today, and address some of your questions live here on the show. Finally, we've got an offer for you to be able to do something very special. In fact, this is going to be an unpaid ad. If you're watching on YouTube, you see me wearing my Wild Adventure shirt today, and twa.us is an opportunity for you to go be with our friends at the Wild Adventure, Jan Janura's place in southwestern Montana. Beautiful place for you to spend time on the Madison River fishing and fishing private waters on their property. But most importantly, beyond the excellent accommodations and the private chef, the best part are the relationships and the discussions that you're going to have that are going to help you to work on making sure that the strength of your heart is ready for what God's got next, to be able to reflect on your story and know the story that God's got for you next. I could not recommend the Wild Adventure higher to you. There are men's
It's
groups, there are
amazing.
women's groups. Yeah, Rob, I know you did it a number of years ago. I did it a couple of years ago. And this could very well be the best week of your life. Really and truly, not an understatement. This is an unpaid ad for people that we love and would love to see you do it. So if you've never done it before, you want to go to twa.us. It's a highly subsidized private fishing opportunity with an incredible set of content focused around the book Wild at Heart. You're going to love it. twa.us. Also, as we have said before, if you'd like to find out more about the master's program, here in the show notes is a 7-part e-course that you can get on life mastery. And if you want to go even further, there's a 30-minute webinar that you can click on to watch and book time directly with me as a result of watching that short webinar. All these opportunities are here for you because we love serving you. We love finding business leaders. We believe that they are the most underserved missionaries in God's kingdom. And if they were to rise up, that pent-up power in the pews could be unleashed to see what God would do through men and women like you. Thanks for coming here and being with us today. We're here on your journey to work less, make more, and take that gain to be incredible and have an impactful life that will matter forever. I'm your host, Jeff Gearhart, here with Rob Dayton. Until next time, God bless you.